Hi, my name's Ken Benoit. I'm a certified golf course superintendent and executive director of the New York Golf Course Foundation. I recently rode my bicycle around the state of New York, covering over 1,000 miles, to raise awareness of the importance for golf facilities to formally adopt best management practices, which are designed to preserve and protect our water resources. Along the way, I spoke with superintendents, university professors, and PGA professionals about the impact BMPs can have at their facility and beyond. We've also discussed specific BMPs that the superintendents have implemented at their facility. This project was made possible by funds awarded to the foundation by the New York State Turfgrass Association through the New York State's Turfgrass Environmental Stewardship Fund. In this video, we're speaking with George Tomey. George was my cameraman as we pedaled around the state of New York visiting golf courses. Prior to heading out, George had some negative impressions about the impact golf courses had on the environment, particularly as it relates to water quality. After we were done, I decided to sit down with George and follow up and see if his impressions have changed about golf courses and their commitment to protecting the environment. He had some pretty interesting things to say. I hope you enjoy the video, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up and please subscribe. Thanks. So George, can you share with me the impressions you had of the golf course industry and its impact on the environment prior to being involved in the Connect to Protect project?
So my assumptions around that were that golf courses were an unnecessary happening that impacted our communities and our sustainability negatively. As it relates to water use, as it relates to use of fertilizers and pesticides. My thinking prior to this was that there was this dumping of chemicals and contaminating water and dumping of chemicals into the ground, which would also, I assumed, affect the ground water, and the wash and the runoff was negative, in that it was all done for the sake of this sport, and its impact went well beyond the sport.
How had the media helped form some of those opinions you had of the golf course industry prior to becoming involved in the Connect to Protect Tour project?
Yeah, the media that I would probably gravitate to would be media that would be attacking the industry, and But I can tell you, if the average reader of this kind of material or this kind of information delved as deeply into it as I did, which was pretty shallow, I formed impressions without a lot of knowledge. I can tell you that. And that I learned on this trip, that the impressions I formed were without really even asking you, as close a contact as I would have had with you, even asking you, so how do you handle this? How do you handle that? I just made my assumptions that a lot of it's a recreation for people, and they only wanted their recreation and they weren't thinking about its impact.
Tell me, have your impressions of the golf course industry and its relationship to the environment changed now that you've had an intimate look behind the curtain?
So I found out, at least from my perspective now, the golf course superintendent is the steward. What they do and why they do it and how they do it. I found out that it was a group of people that just was a name, that I didn't have any depth other than my knowledge of you, my experience of you. That I found out that their conscientiousness, their passion, their diligence, their care, their thoughtfulness around what they're doing and what they're doing with the land that they are stewards of was far deeper than I had thought, far deeper than I gave them credit for, which is probably more on me than anybody else, because my impressions were formed without the depth that I gained on this trip. And I walked away thinking, boy, this is an impressive bunch. They are really, and when they were talking about their best management practices, they spoke with, again, the passion, the conscientiousness, the concern for the work that they do. And then I found out they did probably more for the community than the community does for them. And in fact, when there was a community or when there was a natural accident, the golf course superintendents dove in as good, responsible community members and really helped ameliorate the issues. Then I actually walked away with a sense that the golf course superintendent probably pays a lot more attention than my neighbors and I do to the green space that we have allotted to us or that we've purchased.
Well, and their impact on it.
And their impact on it. And then I also, it dawned on me, they are stewards of the largest green space in most communities.
Certainly in the urban areas.
In the urban areas. And I've also learned that we do have, those of us who live in urban environments, do have I would venture to bet that they have a limited understanding. If I'm the average, put me in the average, they have a limited understanding of the impact of all of these things on our environment, golf courses, farms, our own fertilization, I was listening to guys talk about how little they fertilized when my neighbors, the trucks are always pulling up and spraying their lawns once a week with something, it seems like once a week. I see these little signs that they leave that they were there, and I'm listening to golf course superintendents talk about how to let the land, how to build a strong, fertile terrain for the course that they're stewards of, and that it wasn't done with excessive chemicals and it was done with a thoughtful approach to the most sustainable way to deal with this. You guys should be teaching the people who own their own properties and lawns what to do